The price of extinction, the canary that came back to life. Today, we're diving into a topic everyone asks me about, and it's undoubtedly one of the most shocking and intriguing in the world of canary breeding: the exorbitant price of the London fancy canary. Why does this bird, which was extinct for almost 100 years, cost a fortune? We're not talking about a high price. We're talking about values that make many breeders roll their eyes. But the answer, my friends, lies in its history of resurrection. Think about it. What is it worth to bring something thought lost forever back to life? The London fancy isn't just a canary. It's a genetic treasure, a masterpiece that defied extinction itself. The cost reflects years of research, trial and error, passion, and a brutal investment by a few visionary breeders. It's the price of a miracle of nature and science. And believe me, it's a value far from absurd when you know its true story. If you want to discover all the secrets behind this value, stay with me until the end. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a second of this controversial analysis. The genetic game that costs thousands. Mating a London fancy is not like mating a common color canary. It's a high-risk genetic game that can cost you thousands of euros. I've already revealed the 20% rule to you. Only about 20% of the chicks will have the ideal phenotype for exhibition. What does this mean in practice? That for every 5 chicks, 4 will not have the top commercial value of a top specimen. Think of it as a roulette wheel. With each mating, you're betting high, and the probability of losing is huge. A high-quality London fancy can be worth hundreds or even thousands of euros. But to get one of those, the breeder needs to invest in dozens of others that don't meet the standard. It's the cost of unfertilized eggs, food, space, training time, and labor to care for birds that, in the end, will have a much lower commercial value. That's why the price of a top London fancy is so high. You're not just paying for a bird. You're paying for the research, passion, and risk that the breeder took to deliver a perfect canary to you. The minority rule. Where do the 80% go? I've already told you that only 20% of London fancy chicks are born with the potential to become champions. The big question is, what happens to the overwhelming majority, the 80% that don't meet the ideal standard? Well, they aren't discarded. That would be a huge waste. This is where the cruelty of genetics and the wisdom of the breeder come in. The chicks that keep melanin on their bodies are, for the most part, spanglebacks, the birds that have dark spots on their backs. Although they cannot be exhibited as classics, they are the backbone of the aviary. The 80% have incalculable genetic value, as they are the ones that carry the vitality and strength of the breed, preventing inbreeding and weakness. That's why a serious breeder needs a large flock. They spend money and time raising dozens of birds that will never be sold at the price of a champion. These are the birds that guarantee the future, and their breeding cost is embedded in the final price of the perfect minority. The exclusive metamorphosis that no one sees. What makes the London fancy so valuable isn't just what it is, but what it becomes. The vast majority of canaries are born with the color they'll have their entire lives. With the London fancy, it's the opposite. It's born as a melanic, dark chick that, at first glance, doesn't stand out at all. The breeder must have faith. They must know that, at the time of the first molt, the miracle will happen. This metamorphosis, where the dark body plumage is replaced by a clear yellow or white, is a private exhibition, an exclusivity that the buyer doesn't see. It's the time, patience, and anxiety that the breeder invests for the London fancy to reveal its beauty. The high price pays for this biological phenomenon, for a bird that is an enigma, that keeps its beauty as a secret until the very last moment. It's not just about having the bird, it's about having the opportunity to witness its transformation. The global demand, the desire for a living treasure. The London fancy is not just a canary, it's a living collector's item. Its history of extinction and resurgence has created an aura of mystery and exclusivity that attracts breeders from all over the world. The demand for a high-quality specimen is global and intense. But why? Because there are very few breeders who truly master the science and art of producing them. The London fancy market operates on the most basic rule of economics: supply and demand. The supply is tiny, almost non-existent, and the demand is enormous. Breeders from all over the world are willing to pay a high price for a canary that represents not only beauty but the conquest of an almost impossible challenge. It's a niche market for the passionate, for those who don't just want a bird, but a living treasure in their collection. The controversy no one tells you about. When we talk about the high price of the London Fancy, we're not just talking about genetics and the market. There's a hidden controversy that many top breeders avoid. I've already told you about the mating with the lizard, but the truth is, the topic is a taboo. Many purists fiercely criticize those who do it, arguing that it contaminates the breed, but it's a secret that many practice to maintain genetic vitality. Another controversial issue is diet. The judging standard requires that the bird has no traces of melanin on its body, and for that, diet is fundamental. But the temptation to use tricks or supplements to lighten the plumage of a low-cost bird to sell it as a top London Fancy is real, and it happens more than you think. Behind the price, there is a world of ethics, debates, and, at times, secrets. It's the raw reality of the market, where the search for perfection can lead to controversial paths. The black horny parts. The detail worth gold. The beauty of a London Fancy lies in its contrast, but its true value, what makes it an investment, is in the small details. And there's no detail more valuable than its horny parts. While most canaries have light-colored legs and beaks, in a show-quality London Fancy, these parts must be an intense black, almost black as coal. Why? Because it is an unmistakable sign of pure, strong melanic genetics. This trait is a direct inheritance from the lizard canaries that were used in its recreation. The rarity of finding a bird with a perfectly clean body free of melanin and completely black horny parts is what raises the price to an absurd level. It's a seal of authenticity, a guarantee that the bird is a product of a genetically sound mating and not a mere accident. It's the detail a judge looks for, and it's the detail the most demanding buyer is willing to pay for. The cost of being a pioneer, and what I paid. The price of a top London Fancy can be shocking, but the real cost, what most people don't see, is the cost of being a pioneer. When I decided to embark on this journey, I knew it wasn't going to be easy. My initial investment wasn't just in buying the birds, but in the trust in a project that few dared to follow. I had to import birds from top lineages, spending a considerable amount to acquire the best specimens I could find. And what I paid, my friends, wasn't just money. I paid in sleepless nights, in studies, in frustrating mating attempts that didn't result in what I expected. I paid for the patience of waiting for the first molt, to see if the magic really happened. It's an investment of passion. When you buy a London Fancy from a serious breeder, you're not just paying for a bird, but for that story of dedication, sacrifice, and risk. It's the price of trusting someone who dedicated their life to bringing this bird back. The myth of the cheap London Fancy Canary. The internet is full of promises of London Fancies at unbelievably low prices. And I'm here to tell you that in the overwhelming majority of cases, this is a myth and a trap. There is no quality London Fancy at a cheap price. If a breeder offers you a bird for a price far below the market, there are only two possibilities. Either they don't know what they have, which is highly unlikely, or they are selling you a low-quality bird without the ideal phenotype, or, even worse, a fake London Fancy. The London Fancy is the result of complex genetics and a meticulous selection process. Selling a bird for a low price is a clear sign that it doesn't have the purity or potential that the breed requires. Buying a cheap London Fancy Canary is, in fact, shooting yourself in the foot. You will spend money, time, and energy caring for a bird that will never give you the satisfaction of having a true show specimen. Your passion deserves a serious investment, because, in the end, cheap is expensive, and the price of the London Fancy Canary is the guarantee that the bird is authentic and has the right genetics. London Fancy, an investment or an obsession? And we get to the big question. After all I've shown you, is the London Fancy a financial investment or an obsession? The truth, my friends, is that it's both. It's an investment because, by acquiring a quality bird, you are buying a rare asset, a genetic treasure that appreciates over time. It's a niche market for those who understand its rarity and the work that goes into each specimen. But for me, for most serious breeders, the London Fancy is much more than that. It's an obsession. It's the obsession of being part of a resurrection story, of honoring the legacy of the breeders who brought it back. It's the obsession of unraveling the secrets of genetics, of anxiously waiting for the first molt, and of celebrating every chick born with perfect plumage. The price we pay, the work we dedicate, is not just for our wallets, it's for the soul of the breeder. It's for the passion of being part of something legendary. If this journey has inspired you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next chapter, and tell me in the comments. For you, is it an investment or an obsession?